So it's day 103 of President Trump's 4 to 6 week war. On Monday night, American forces lost an Apache helicopter. But what was it doing in the Strait of Hormuz, and what's going to be the implications of that for the peace process? Central Command has confirmed overnight the US conducted a series of retaliatory strikes against Iran for the loss of that Apache helicopter. The attacks were conducted against air defense sites and also radars near the Strait of Hormuz, all of which looks relatively limited in scope. But it is worth noting that the Iranians claim that Americans also attacked the island of Qeshm. Why is that important? Well, that's because that is where the Iranians store a lot of their weapons that they use to threaten the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Iranians, for their part, have also mounted their own series of retaliations for the American strikes. They've conducted strikes against American military facilities in the region with a total of 21 strikes. Those have included strikes against Bahrain, which is the home of the US Fifth Fleet. There's also 5 missiles that were struck towards Jordan, the El Azraq Air Base. All of those were shot down, but it's also been a very busy night in Kuwait airspace as they've been intercepting missiles as well. What's really interesting here is neither side has claimed that there's been any material damage done to anything on the ground. Probably more importantly, though, we're not hearing of any casualties. If we had, particularly on the American side, the danger is here. We could have seen a spiral of escalation that could quickly have got out of control. But the core question, all of this has been started because of the loss of an Apache helicopter. But what was it doing in the Strait of Hormuz in the first place? Well, there's been widespread reports that American military shipping is actually escorting commercial vessels through the strait in defiance of the Iranians. That would explain why the Iranians have been firing drones across at the Americans, and that's led for tit for tat over the last few days. But it might also explain the presence of the Apache helicopter, because the American warships can look after the anti-ship missiles, but the Apache is very well suited to the drones, but particularly the fast patrol boats that are on their way in. So has Iran actually specifically targeted the Apache helicopter? Well, each time that Iran has actually successfully targeted something American, it's actually claimed credit for it. On this occasion, there's no evidence they've done that. So is there another credible reason that this Apache could have been lost? Well, CNN is reporting that they've spoken to an American official that has confirmed that they believe that the Apache impacted, collided with a Shahed drone. Now, is that even remotely credible? Well, if I would refer back to actually the war in Ukraine, the Russians are regularly launching huge waves of these Shahed drones. Now, Ukraine runs out of the expensive air defense missiles, so the next way of shooting them down is using bullets from either fighter jets or from helicopters. The challenge is you've got to get quite close to the Shahed to be able to kill it. And of course, you've got a very big difference in speed. So the danger is you get too close, you fire your gun, the bullets strike, and it explodes, and you fly through the debris. So was this incident a result of actually the American Apache aircraft either just colliding with or actually getting caught in the debris of an attack on a Shahed? Or was this a deliberate attack by the Iranians to try and use Shahed drones against the helicopter? Bluntly, that doesn't sound very credible at all, because these Shaheds are generally good against a fixed target, not a mobile one. But fog of war, who knows? What is interesting is what's the impact of this on the peace process? Well, President Trump keeps confirming that we're pretty close to a peace deal, but events of the last few days have demonstrated just how fragile the peace is, and it does feel we're further than ever away from any form of deal. What is also interesting, at the start of the war, President Trump would have expected his military to impose a defeat on Iran, and therefore he could dictate terms as to the nuclear debate and all of the conclusion of the war. Far from that. Iran has not been defeated. It still has a very robust military capability, and it has a lot of influence through control of the Strait of Hormuz. It's ready to negotiate, and that means there'll have to be compromises. That's something President Trump is not going to be comfortable with at all. Now, there is some common ground. Both of them want to see the Strait of Hormuz opened. Both of them want to see an end to the war, and both of them see a memorandum of understanding as a way to get to that. The big difference, though, which is the core reason that President Trump went to war, is about Tehran's nuclear ambitions. And it doesn't look likely that we're going to get to a conclusion of that anytime soon. Arguably, it's further away than ever. Of course, the tragedy, if that is true, the international community will be left wondering, what has the war actually achieved?